Hey, welcome to Constellation TV. I'm Mike Nee, VP and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research, and I'm your host for episode 133. We're here every 2 weeks with the hottest takes and what's going on in enterprise tech, and this episode is absolutely no exception. First up, and always a fun episode, I'm sitting down with Holger and Esteban, and we're actually going head-to-head on a topic of the week, which is context washing. You know the market's moving fast when we just made fun of AI washing, and we're already doing it for context washing. And we know that every major AI vendor now claims to have a context strategy, but ask 10 vendors what context actually means, and they'll give you at least 10 different answers. So has context become the latest buzzword in enterprise AI, or is it emerging as the control plane that will determine which AI systems will win and lose? Right after that, Liz Miller, never one to be missed. She's always brings out the best in every guest, is joined by DeZao from Pegasystems. And they'll be talking how marketing leaders are using AI not just to generate content, but to solve real process and governance problems, shrinking bloated Martech stacks, staying within the guardrails, and unlocking truly granular test and learn situations. I've been a serial CMO, and if you or anything like me, you had easily 50 pieces of tech in your Martech stack. This is one not to miss as you think about how you start rationalizing these things and some pragmatic advice around that. Next up, you'll hear from John Radko, SVP of Product Development at OpenText, speaking with Constellation Research's Chirag to explore OpenText Business Network, how it's connecting global commerce, and frankly, dig into this next wave of AI that isn't simply making transactions faster, but enabling the next wave of software agents to actively manage this whole complex ecosystem, connecting, frankly, thousands of companies. And finally, we end up with Holger, who's going to close out this episode with an update on Qualcomm from their latest releases. So whether you're building AI, leading data and technology teams, simply trying to separate signal from hype, we've got a great lineup today. Thank you for joining us. Let's dive right in. Hello, everyone. Mike Nee from Constellation Research, joined by my friends Holger Mueller and Esteban Kolsky, here for another riveting CRTV debate. And so, we're going to be talking about this idea of context washing. Every AI vendor now has a context strategy, Snowflake, Databricks, SAP, Microsoft, you name it. The problem is that context is one of those words that everyone uses, no one defines the same. And so for some vendors, it's metadata, others semantic layer, others knowledge graphs, vector database, memory, catalogs. And before we debate whether context is real, let me just actually put a quick definition on it and we'll get right into it. For me, context is the information that helps humans and machines, AI, understand what something means, what is happening, what's important now, and what action is allowed in that situation. So with that, today's question, is context becoming the next AI buzzword, or is it just a vector database or RAG? Hey, Holger, why don't you kick us off? What do you think?
Well, it's already a buzzword, right? So everybody's talking about it. I think we're way past the buzzword stage, and it is a buzzword because, first of all, we talk about digital context, right? Humans have a bigger context as we know where we are, what we do, what we see, what we feel, and so on. So we'll never get that in the foreseeable future. But my problem is it's a fallacy. I'm very worried about the industry setting itself up with context on something which is logical to us, but technically from the current state of the industry, not really feasible because it requires super fast querying of context to have that preactively run for multiple paths of where the conversation would go. We only talk about agent and conversation experiences, and that is very expensive because you have to pay for that and requires a lot of logic and intelligence. So what I'm waiting for, and this shows me it's a buzzword, is I'm waiting for the context agent, which prepares the real agent's context automatically in the background.
Well, what I hear you saying is for now, mostly marketing in some ways. It's, every vendor is going to use it. They're going to rebrand around it, whether it's catalog, drafts. Therefore, everything's just a subset of context and we're not delivering it in time. Esteban, where are we? Do you have a different opinion here?
We're at a point where the world's going to come to an end because I agree partially with Holger on this.
Oh, wait, that's a shock.
The world's going to come to an end. Here's the thing. Holger is right, but the approach is what I differ in. I think that the approach to this is like, we need context for the computers to do things right. We need to do hyper-personalization, which we never got right because we didn't understand context. We need to actually apply the real value of context, which is everything that you mentioned, not a graph, not a semantic layer, not a metadata, but all of it. And we need to do all that stuff in very specific small situations instead of trying to make it at a massive level, and then we can scale it. So, I agree with Holger in the approach, but I think that what we need to do is change the architecture, how we're doing this, so we can incorporate everything that you mentioned, Mike, to actually create context for even personalization for every single interaction at mass scale. We can do that in 10 years. Come on, let's do it.
Well, is the aspiration...
And the architecture exists, guys, but you can talk about it and I don't have to. So go ahead, Michael.
Well, I guess the question is, can we take it in chunks? Clearly you had to start with context, with semantics, right? Or this is all or nothing to be able to support what you really believe the AI needs?
To me, it's mind-blowing, right? Because we have the B2C use case.
Holger, what you got?
We have the B2C use case, right? How did OpenAI and Anthropic build their models? On documents, right? They stole, but let's not go on record here, right? They copied the data, they scraped the data to have the data, to have everything in the data lake. And yes, it's only documents, not transactional data, totally different dimension of problem in the enterprise. But we know that the only way to build large language models is with a consistent SLA. And the only way you get a consistent SLA, it's as old as enterprise software, is in a single system. As soon as you need something federated live from another system, you don't know what the answers is, you don't know how long your GPUs or CPUs will be idling to get something to do. So the data lakehouse architecture, right, invented for the advertising pricing problem, which was a mind-blowing data problem and query problem 15 years ago when Hadoop was invented, or 16, whatever to be correct, right? It is available. We're not using it.
I agree with that. But you gave me the answer within your answer. All that idle CPU time that we actually paying for and not using should be used to actually pre-set up some of this stuff. Look, you mentioned a B2C company, right? B2C company with 100 million customers. Number one, they don't have 100 million customers coming in all at once. Number two, not 100 million will come with the same problem at once. So then let's set up the different scenarios. Let's set up the different interactions. Let's create the context for each of those. Let's use some of the idle CPU time to preset logic to some of these interactions. So the actual processing time for context is a lot smaller once we get to the actual interaction. Instead of being caught by surprise and every interaction that comes in, we don't know what they're talking about. We don't know what the content is. We don't know what the context. We don't know anything. We got taken by surprise by a customer that called to find the balance in their account. Oh my God, what are we going to do with that? Come on.
Well, what I hear us saying is it's a spectrum, guys. Look, context has been something that we've been doing for a long time. Even one of our companies, to your point, retail, we would have pre-thought what are the potential contexts that really matter in this situation, and I would have pre-planned for it. And then I have limited agents that work specifically on that context, and we're getting more and more to the right. Where are we on that spectrum? Are we at a point where we can have something meaningful in the short term beyond just washing?
Like I said, there has to be.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, there has to be an ephemeral context agent, right? The one who knows and does exactly what one does, pre-cache content, but still has a real-time thing because if your account just changed because it did a transaction, you're trying to fool the system. So the R of real-time is real in 2026 as never been before. So this is why it's so difficult to create really context. And this is why I think it's the buzzword, which the industry for the longest time, if they don't use data lakehouses and bring all the data together, cannot factually deliver. And that's kind of tragic because people are chasing a red herring. And maybe the evil minds, the Machiavellis will say, we talk about context and everybody nods on context while you're fixing some other stuff in the background. But that's for industry analysts to discover. I don't have the data for that yet. So
that's why it's going to take more than a year. It's going to take 10 years to get there because we need to change the architecture. We need to check the infrastructure. We need to change the way we do things. And that's going to take 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then we can actually talk about how we deploy this. To say that you have a context graph, which is a piece of shit, by the way.
Esteban and me agree again. So this is a scary big debate. But the point is, I think you can be faster for certain use cases, contents, and the technology doesn't know. You can be technology ready now if you're going for it, right? Which is the interesting thing to do.
But a context graph
we should talk about agent velocity.
You guys are so passionate. Esteban, you go. What are you going to say?
A context graph is a dream. It's not a solution. A memory is a dream. It's not a solution. You need to bring them all together. You need a different architecture to be able to use all these things together. And that's going to take time to set up. And in the interim, we're going to be context washing everything until we get something done right.
That's right. Context washing. Yeah, absolutely.
Context washing. I mean, believe me, almost every event this year has been context at the top level, and yet no one agrees what it actually means. Everyone has a piece of the context, and so they're kind of right, but they're also using it to just cover everything. So let me just wrap this up, guys, because I think this has been just a fun debate. I knew having the two of you were going to bring a lot of energy to the table. And if I had to sum up, I'd say, look, it's both marketing and necessary. But currently what we have is not sufficient. And this is where we're absolutely seeing context washing, but we also know this is a real problem. We've seen this really shift. First generation of enterprise AI, look, it was, about information. This next one is around action, but we know that before we can act generically or horizontally, we need more context, because current context approaches can get you very specific actions, but it doesn't broadly scale to what people are promising. And, we are facing this idea of inference cost shock. And we know if you put context in, you actually can fundamentally, we've seen 50% decrease in token costs, 60, 80% decrease in inference time. And so we know if we get context right in specific situations, we can actually hit real benefits here. And this allows us to bound sort of decisions about what we want autonomous versus the wild, wild west, right, out there. So I think this is a really interesting time to think about this. We know the vendor's going jumping right in. We know we need operational context, whether it's around what process I'm in, what decision I'm trying to make, what's happening right now. And this is beyond a lot. But let's wrap it up. This is where the next enterprise AI control point may emerge into context, but we are absolutely not there yet. So a lot of it's going to be context washing. With that, thank you, Esteban. Thank you, Holger, for joining this debate. And we'll be continuing this debate again. We'll see what we're going to do next quarter.
Hello, people. This is Chirag Mehta from Constellation Research, and I have John Radko with me, who is a Senior Vice President of Product Development with OpenText. How are you doing, John?
Very well, Chirag. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, likewise. So we're going to talk about business networks. OpenText does many things. Business network is a huge part of what OpenText does. And John is here to tell us more about that specific solution and that specific part of business of OpenText. So John, let's start with basic. What exactly is business network and why someone should need one?
So let me take that in reverse order. Let's start with the problem. So companies and organizations need to talk to each other. And when I say talk to each other, I mean exchange information. Sometimes they're exchanging structured information. Sometimes they're exchanging unstructured information. There's a huge flow of information between organizations. It really is the lifeblood of commerce. Now, the challenge with that is all companies are different. They use different systems. They're at different generations of technology, and they use different data formats. So the role of business network is to mediate all of that, to help people get connected to their partners, to flow information to them, and to ensure that it keeps moving and that it's working well. So in essence, we're kind of the network that glues together businesses, which is why we're called Business Network.
So when customers are trying to get on, your business network, are they thinking about what their business processes are and whether this is something they should do on their own?
Generally, within an organization, you can drive standardization and you can make people work in the same way. But between organizations and between companies, things are done differently. And what do I mean by differently? They're using different software. They're using different protocols for transferring information, but they're even using slightly different formats of the same business documents. So we work a lot with standard documents based on the X12 standards, EDIFACT standards, XML standards. And even when someone's using the same version of the same transaction set, they might use it differently. They might include some values that other companies don't include. And so what our clients find is that even if they're doing the same process, let's say ordering something, if they're working with 10 different organizations, the orders may look 10 different ways. It may be a couple of different standards. It may be different versions of the standard. So it's not the same. And the one other thing to keep in mind is it doesn't even stay constant once you're set up, because business is always changing. So our clients may be changing their ERP system, or their partners may be changing how they operate.
What does that process look like? In other words, how does one actually end up get onboarded onto the network and actually use the network?
So onboarding is one of the key capabilities we have, and there's really two facets of it I want to talk about. The first is a strength of working with a business network is that we can offer partners a wide variety of ways to onboard. So some smaller companies may not have communications gateways or ERP systems, so they might be working through a web interface. Large organizations may want to hook up to their SAP or Oracle systems. And increasingly in the mid-market, what we're seeing is companies want to connect using cloud ERP systems, things like NetSuite or MS Dynamics. So the onboarding process generally begins with a client letting us know they want a partner to join their network, their community, as we call it. We'll reach out to that partner and help them decide the best way for them to connect. And that can be any of those options or several others. Then we'll work with that partner to make sure that they comply with the requirements for our client, meaning what standards are they using? And then we'll help them test. Finally, once it's up and running, we'll keep an eye on the flow of traffic between our client and their partner, and then help them deal with anything if there's any kind of problem with that.
So from an OpenText perspective, what do you think is the key differentiator? So when customers talk to you and they make a decision whether they want to do something on their own, or they would rather go somewhere else, or they work with OpenText, what is that secret sauce?
So I think it's a combination of our people, our process, and our technology. But I also want to be transparent. In general, there's very little that we're doing that our clients could not do for themselves, just as they could run their own logistics, or they could cater their own events, or any of those things. The question is, does it make business sense? We have an advantage from economies of scale. One of the challenges with B2B integration is for most customers, it's just not anyone's full-time job, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. But for OpenText Business Network staff, this is all we do. We run the business network. We operate trading communities on behalf of our clients. We also have specialized technology that is purpose-built. Our trading grid platform is purpose-built to power B2B integration for our customers. And we have built processes over the years for onboarding customers, for dealing with issues, for managing upgrades and managing change in a customer's partner network. So you can absolutely do this on your own, but generally it's more cost-effective and scalable to work with a partner who specializes in it.
How do you work at scale? And how do you not actually overwhelm the system and yet help your customers and partners?
So I'm really glad you asked me that, because I think when people think about trading grid or business network, they tend to think about the connection where we integrate, maybe connect to an SAP or an AS2 connection, or they think about the data transformation where we change from one format, say an iDoc to an X12 850 or something like that. But actually a huge amount of our investment in software development is in what we refer to as community management. And that is software that watches what is happening in a community, that monitors transaction flow, that enables customers to manage their partners and see what's going on. So it's a large investment in tooling and utilities and capability, and everything done with the idea of managing at scale.
AI is disrupting everything, but it's also helping companies do things that they could not do before. What are you doing with AI? How are you imagining or sort of reimagining your business?
So the path we see for AI in the business we're in begins with acceleration and ends with transformation. So right now, what we're seeing AI do is accelerate everything we do, whether it's onboarding a partner, translating some data, resolving an issue, or detecting a change somewhere out there in the network. So initially what it's doing is it is accelerating, but eventually it's going to transform. I was talking to someone who's in the software business, in the SaaS applications actually, and they were saying today they think about end users, but increasingly they expect to think about agents. I believe the majority of e-commerce and B2B will be performed by agents in the future. So that's the journey we're on now. But in the near term, what we're doing is we're deploying AI agents that enable our clients and their users to better manage the community they're a part of, to more rapidly onboard their partners, to detect issues, and to resolve them more quickly. Going forward, though, we actually want the agents to operate as managers of that community, sort of the first line of defense. We recently rolled out a capability with a major automaker where it would detect a file failure and resend the file after the issue had resolved. And that sounds relatively simple, but it required a bunch of knowledge about what was going on in the network to know when the send would work. And that's just the beginning.
What's one piece of advice that you will give them? Like, if you were to do one thing right, do this. Like what is that?
I think the key thing is to approach your partner connectivity and your business network as a platform. So you really want to do as much of it as possible through a single infrastructure. Obviously, I would recommend that be OpenText Trading Grid, but however you do it, you want to do that. And I want to explain why. It's a network. So every time you connect a partner to the network, you get all the capabilities of that network. So you want to have one network. Also, as we go through this AI transformation, the way agentic AI is going to roll out is it's going to leverage interfaces and APIs that are available on all the services in your infrastructure. So in the case of Trading Grid, most of our services have API interfaces, and we're now building interfaces that agents can talk to. So you're going to want to have as many of your partners and as many of your processes as possible in a single place so that you can get the scale and so that you can move quickly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, John. And I'm really looking forward to how Business Network evolves, with AI. So we'll check in back with you again.
Thanks very much.
Hey, it's Liz Miller, VP and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research. And yet again, this is like our annual catharsis. I feel like this is our
delightful.
Every year we get together at PegaWorld and we sit here and we talk about, well, everything that we've done over the past year and all the craziness. Are you hearing the same frustration that I keep hearing out there where people are just like, sure, I'd love to be able to live in that little slice of nirvana, but I've got this stuff over here.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it boils down to, right, is using the right AI for the right job. And when you are implementing it, leading with the outcome. What is the outcome that you want to achieve?
Okay, let's dive into that.
Yeah.
How are you helping, like when you sit down and talk with people, how do you start to help them navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about customer lifetime value.
Oh, that's a good one.
And sustainable growth.
Yes.
Right? So you do need to minimize operating costs. And there may be a few areas where you can do that with AI, right? But ultimately, what you need to do is use AI throughout that customer's lifetime value to augment their experience, to understand where the experience needs to be augmented, where the gaps are in the experience, how can we scale things like personalization to a lot of customers, and really figure out, okay, so, X, Y, and Z brand, we want to do this in the next year, and let's figure out how we're going to do that. And that might be AI, that might be a new messaging strategy, that might be
partners and getting all of their AI to work together.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might be a collab. It might be
Totally. To me, a little bit about how you've seen that change over the past year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of areas that, functional areas that marketing crosses all the time, right?
Great.
So I was just talking about, so for the product that I represent, Customer Decision Hub, one of the things we're really good at is centralizing compliance. So if you're a marketer, and maybe you're a marketer in a highly regulated industry, you don't have to make the mistake and then get slapped and deal with the consequences, because you have everything that you need to know about how to stay within the guardrails in front of you.
Yeah.
And everybody should be able to see it, right?
Are you seeing, even out of Decision Hub, because compliance is there, I can make different decisions and not be punished even about those different decisions? Like, I'm actually doing different things. I've got different products. I got different pricing.
Yes. As a marketer, I don't have to worry about violating rules and compliance and governance is all in the same place, right? It's all centralized.
But I can make even different decisions, and I can think differently, even about my existing products, even about my different opportunities, my different campaigns, my different recommendations, because of compliance.
Yes, and it's actually, test and learn. Like, test and learn for marketers has been around forever, but AI really enables test and learn to like a granular level of like, is this the right message? Will it impact? Is the model going to go off the rails? Like,
yes,
you can really test and learn. That's where the partnership comes in with AI, because ultimately you don't want the AI going off and doing something crazy with your brand. You want to be the person doing something crazy with your brand within limits and guardrails.
What is new? What do you want people to walk away from PegaWorld knowing that is new about what Pega can do with and for a marketing organization?
Well, first of all, what I want to say, there's something that's new, which is really validating of our value prop, which is that we're finally seeing Martech stacks shrink. Finally.
Oh my God. It's
vendor takeout, less point solutions, because at Pega we've been saying this for years, right? End-to-end marketing solutions, less point solutions, less data silos. So the marketplace is starting to do that and realize that now.
Interesting.
I think AI is kind of forcing that function. I would say that some of my favorite things about our new features and things that we're doing are, optimizing the way that we work as marketers, right? So I'm talking about gap detection. So like I'm in the rare instance underserving an audience. And then my in customer engagement studio will come back, the agent will come back and say, hey, this campaign is doing really well, and here's like 10 other people that might be in market for this.
It's not even necessarily the data's problem. It's not necessarily the system's problem. It's a workflow problem.
Yes.
It's a process problem.
It is a process problem. And a lot of these things are process problems.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need AI to solve.
Yeah.
Process problems.
That'd be great.
Not strategy problems.
Yeah. But what AI has unlocked is in the ability to keep all of that knowledge, to keep all of that process in one place and continuously optimize it.
Yes. And I mean, that's what we were looking to do as marketers for years, just with humans, right? Like, how do we do this faster, better, more accurately?
Yeah.
And I think ultimately that's the hope with AI, right? Is that it's going to be faster, better, more accurate.
Yeah.
And we still are going to need humans all over the place.
What do you see marketers ask from blueprints the most? Do you see marketers in there playing with it? Or is this something that's like the overlooked, like the ultimate overlooked playground for what we should be doing?
We don't get to see.
No, that's right. You guys don't get to see it.
We don't get to see.
Pega whole peskiness of you guys actually
privacy.
Privacy and ethics.
Privacy.
That feels so mean. That feels so mean. Because it is how are you using it?
I would have loved.
Oh my God, right?
I would have loved.
Love to see that.
Actually, what happens is a lot of times partners or people will reach out to me and say, hey, I'm working on this blueprint. Can I share it with you? I want to see what you think as a marketer, and can you help me make it better?
Yeah.
So that's actually the power, is the collaboration power.
See, that's cool.
The collab.
But I also think there's power in being able to finally unlock something that you've always thought you wanted to do, something you wanted to create a process and a strategy around, and not feeling like it's going to break the bank.
No, I know. And actually, there was a really interesting blueprint that I was working on a partner with, where we were trying to visualize in the Brazilian market what a TV show could look like with product placement in it.
Oh.
So it's advertising on advertising.
Oh.
But we had to play with Blueprint to get it to do that, because it's really just, it was set up to be messaging in channel, not messaging in in channel.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to see, like, oh, you can do this, you can make it work, you can get it figured out. And even in most areas, segments are a no, right? We're like all down on segments.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan, whatever. But there are use cases for segments, right?
Yeah.
And like TV is one of them.
Absolutely.
And so, and through this process, something that I thought was cool was like, there's a whole telenovela audience, and they do behave as a monolith, which is not normally how audiences behave at all. But this particular content, this cult of like content lovers, behaves as a monolith.
What do you hope we are talking about when it comes to AI? And what do you hope we're not talking about?
I hope that we're talking about how we fix the problem of everyone now creating content and creating AI slop that looks exactly like the technology vendor next to me.
I'm there for it. I am there for it.
I hope LinkedIn is fixed and it's not, not that it's just that we all think we're content creators.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh gosh.
So the volume of, LinkedIn, I love it. It's a wonderful platform. It's enabling us to put our content out there, but now everybody thinks they're a content creator. So it all looks like Claude did it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, 100%.
I hope we
terrifying.
We see the reemergence of taste among content creators and
I like that.
And valuing differentiation, understanding that there is a time and a place for generative AI, and we need to, understand that everyone here gets 6,000 plus messages a day. And I'm just going to scroll right by some of that stuff. I think what's happening is we are giving clients a false sense of failure, that they're not where they should be. And that some brands are like doing these super advanced, crazy things.
Right.
When actually it's a maturity curve and we still have a long way to go.
Yes.
So like, let's be realistic with what brands are actually doing.
100.
Hello, everybody. It's Holger Mueller here from Constellation Research, here to share with you my takeaways from Qualcomm's Investors Day held a few days ago. Pretty unusual for industry analysts to come to Investors Day, but there were plenty of good reasons why Qualcomm did want us to attend and got us all to New York for this event. But with no further ado, let me jump into the details here. The interesting thing is that Qualcomm really is adding a new dimension to it. And that's the exciting part, right? It's very hard for enterprises of that scale to add a new revenue stream. And obviously, that revenue stream is in the data center, right? And starts in 3 phases of rack scale data center infrastructure, then tapping into agentic capabilities and options, and then really the long-term ambition, and there will be some data on that, is going to be to tap into the move from silicon to platform as a service to PaaS. So what Cristiano Amon announced was in that direction. What the gentleman in charge of the data center, Tony Pialis, announced is basically a 3-stage approach, starting with connectivity right now, where Qualcomm has offerings right now. Then there's a kind of like worky thing with the custom silicon offering, where Qualcomm builds custom silicon offering for its customers. The main butter is, because Qualcomm looks at the inference side, is the Xi accelerator. And then later in 2028, with a CPU based on the Orion infrastructure coming to run these inference workloads even better and beyond that. So what it means overall, that basically a Qualcomm platform as a service stack emerges, right? With data infrastructure on the bottom, then different AI runtimes which can help on top of that, with an open ecosystem, very important. Next slide, we'll talk about that. And then, of course, the workloads on top of that. Significant move from, let's understand the history of Qualcomm, right? From being an IP-led company, from a headset company, from a physical AI, stealing my thunder here as well, company. So getting into software platform service. And I think developers was even mentioned all the way from the CEO, Cristiano Amon, down to 3 to 4 times during the keynote, right? And the key thing, the key acquisition launched and made publicly at the day for almost $4 billion is Modular. Modular is a very interesting company by some very smart people who've been a very strong history in the compiler space and programming language space. Swift and others are part of the legacy of the founders, which allows you to run workloads efficiently across different compute platforms, right? And interesting enough, with the claim to run NVIDIA workloads more efficient than NVIDIA with its native CUDA infrastructure. Great claim, very interesting to see, very compelling for CIOs and anybody and cloud vendors who want to run their workloads. Qualcomm has not
by the way, divulged at the conference who the two cloud vendors are, which they're talking about. But modular makes it definitely more interesting because better utilization means better cost, means better throughput, means more revenue in the tokenomic situation that we're in. So that's modular. And then, of course, there's physical AI. This would not be Qualcomm. Very important. It's going to be one of the three legs of the stool. Winning in automotive, this is taking off finally. Significant design wins, pretty much almost all automotive designers working with Qualcomm. Massive logo slide. Industrial IoT equally coming, disrupting all the IoT plans in the enterprise. And last but not least, a full stack opportunity on the robotics side means that Qualcomm is definitely playing in the physical AI space, as is one of the three legs of its stool from the future. Always interesting then, of course, the executive Q&A. Question to CEO Cristiano Amon from my side was, where do you have the talent, the capacity to get this done? He's not very much phased about increasing the chip designs which are being used in the company. Interesting to see. Also understood in the Q&A we had the next day with Dugar Alapadari, which kind of shows that the design numbers is kind of like limited, which is good to see. The question interesting also from the revenue side and likely middles to the gentleman in charge of making this all happening, Tony Psialis, which basically said, look, all I need is from 1 gigawatt win in the enterprise, which is basically the ability to just win one data center and have the numbers done, which Qualcomm wants to have in 2029. Thanks for watching. This is Holger Mueller from Constellation Research. Let me know what you think about the Qualcomm plans happening here. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so that's a wrap on episode 133 of Constellation TV. Thank you for spending time with us. We hope you came away with a few cool ideas and maybe a few questions to explore. In the meantime, follow us on LinkedIn, X, at ConstellationR. Subscribe to the Constellation Research YouTube channel and visit constellationnr.com for our latest research and news and insights. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
You're right. We need the gong. No more calls about Michael without the gong. He threw his statement on a 5-minute segment. No.
Yeah. I was trying to wrap up. I was trying to figure out how to wrap this up as you guys were talking.
Wrap up is a wrap up. Thank everybody. One thought and go. For my school
Holger does this to everyone, so don't worry about it.
What's the topic again?
Context washing.
Okay.
Is context becoming the new next AI buzzword, or is it just a vector database of RAG? It's kind of
I love this. I love this topic. I love this topic.
So wait, how do we open this thing again? I forgot.
I don't even know what we're talking about, but hey.
We are talking about context washing.
Good to go.
Holger, I'll hit you first. Then I'll go to Esteban.
We don't need to know. Come on. Let's go, dude.
Let's go, dude.
All right.
Good. But the only way is that we throw you in the water. You learn to swim, sink or swim. You're gonna swim very soon. So don't drag us down to over scripted here.
All right.
You can do it, Mike. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.